Guys, I'm an Amazon driver. I started my shift at 9 o'clock this morning. It is now 4 a.m.
Amazon workers are paying a heavy toll for the cost of next day delivery.
I live 30 minutes away from the station. In case you don't know, as an Amazon driver, once you finish your shift, you have to pick up after other people's shift, meaning you have to rescue them. So if someone doesn't finish their shift, that means you have to pick up after their shift. We recently just had 5 people quit in 2 weeks. I keep asking to work for dispatch. They said, no, you're good. You are a good driver. We want you in this position right here. We don't want you working up. We don't want you getting promoted. We want you right here, bro. I have to go back into work in less than 5 hours and do this all over again. But you know what? No, I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore, Amazon. I quit.
So this Amazon worker who put out this TikTok under the username 707 Mitchell talked about their experience working as an Amazon delivery driver and the struggle that workers are put under as a result of this pressure for next day delivery. And there's so many layers to this. The first layer being we have grown too accustomed to next day delivery. It's not the end of the world to wait like an extra day or two if that means people living under better working conditions. But because we live under a capitalist system where there's this constant drive for profit, that is what the market will push everything towards. And without regulation, that is where things will go. And the reason I say without regulation is because even if you as an individual want to choose a slower delivery method that's more ethical, if you want to choose a delivery company where the drivers are getting higher wages or better benefits or anything like that, you A, really don't have like a real option in the first place, and B, your own personal decision would have a very minimal impact over the entire system at large. And every delivery company is pushed to make a profit in the same way. So structurally, under capitalism, there will always be this drive regardless, which means that the only way to fundamentally deal with this problem is some type of government regulation to guarantee working hours that are reasonable, to guarantee wages that are reasonable, and to guarantee expectations that are reasonable. Basically, we need the type of labor protections that existed in other fields that had labor unions to fight for them, and we really need to go full throttle into modernizing our labor standards to even just catch up to where we were like 30 years ago. Because the harsh reality is that when it comes to keeping giant corporations in check, the government has basically shirked all of its duties. Because under a capitalist system, the elected officials that we have, by and large, think that their duty is not to the average worker, but it's to the giant corporations. And they even try to sell this lie that, oh, don't worry, if the corporations are doing well, that means the economy is doing well. As long as economic growth is happening, that means the economy is going great, and so everybody should benefit, right? But the reality is, the only people that really benefit from economic growth under capitalism are capitalists who own capital. And it turns out that working class people find themselves increasingly squeezed under this system. Another layer to this, though, are the general conditions of labor in the United States more broadly, outside of Amazon, where you see this push for unionization. Well, you also see these giant corporations that are doing all of these union busting tactics, and in some cases even disregarding the National Labor Relations Board, which speaks to the point that the government fundamentally isn't really doing its job and elected leaders are doing very little. And especially when it comes to the fields of like transportation, you have rail workers who are considering going on strike because of their poor working conditions, a lack of breaks, and a strenuous hours, alongside wages that are very substandard, in addition to workers at Amazon who are trying to unionize in order to demand the bare minimum level of like decency in the workplace. And on top of that, you also have the fact that Amazon quite literally is running out of workers because their retention rate is so low that they've cycled through so many workers that they're starting to find that they are running out of people to hire. And so really, where does this put us? This puts us in this position where working class people are demanding progress. We are demanding change, better working conditions, and just like decent humanity in the workplace. But we also have employers responding to that by increasing prices and trying to force working class people into more desperate situations. Because you have to remember, capitalists, generally speaking, will behave as a group because if you are the owner of a giant company, you are not only going to have shares in your own company, you're going to have shares in pretty much every other company as well, which means that you behave to the best interests of capital broadly over labor. In effect, they have socialized the market so that they, in a sense, have shared ownership amongst capitalists of the economy so that their interests are all fundamentally tied with each other, which means that their core struggle is not individual companies versus each other in a market competition. It is actually a class struggle of capitalists against workers. And the unfortunate position that we are in is that the government has pretty clearly decided that they are on the side of the capitalists and not the workers. Because if they were, then things like this.
As an Amazon driver, Dispatch will give you a company cell phone with Amazon Flex on it, which is basically the app we use to deliver packages. It gives us GPS and all the good things like that. And if you don't complete your route as well as other people's routes within 12 hours, the app will kick you out. You know what Dispatch did to me today? They sent me every single stop that I was supposed to make on my personal cell phone. You know what else they did? They said to log out of the thing that pays me, the thing that tracks my hours and everything that I do. They said log out of that. And you know what else they said? They said log back in tomorrow. You know when tomorrow is? It's today. Okay? I can't log back in. I can't make money. Last time I did that, I did not get paid overtime. I got paid normal time for 6 extra hours, bro.
As highlighted by this Amazon worker, would be prosecuted by the government as wage theft. Because here's the real kicker: wage theft is actually greater than the total amount of like burglary or larceny that is like committed in street crime that police might respond to. And yet, for some reason, despite the fact that wage theft is a much bigger problem, police never really respond to wage theft, do they? And even in states like Minnesota, where wage theft is considered, legally speaking, to be essentially the same as larceny, very few people have actually been prosecuted under the law. And so we're in a position where giant companies feel perfectly comfortable robbing their workers of deserved pay, of break time, and of basic human decency, all for the goal of increasing their profits no matter what. Because even when the economy is struggling, or so we're told, for one reason or another, profits are just never allowed to go down. It always seems to be working class people who have to pay the price of a struggling economy.
But you know what? No, I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore, Amazon. I quit.